Hi, hello everybody. How are you today? My this webinar is being recorded. My name is Mayu Negami Hanford. I am a lecturer in Japanese studies and modern languages in Cardiff University. Thank you for coming to the 16th Cardiff Japanese online lecture series, exploring socio-cultural aspects of Japanese language learning. We also would like to say thank you for the Japan Foundation London to supporting this lecture series. And I am so sorry, but although this webinar is the 16th, but my holding slide that I prepared saying 15th, but it's 16th actually. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to talk about the purpose of this webinar. And the purpose of this Cardiff Japanese lecture series is to share contemporary relevant information and to understand cultural context for recognizing the diverse aspects of Japanese society in broader sense. We aim to explore social cultural aspects of language learning for those studying Japanese language and culture, as well as various learners, teachers, and researchers with an interest in Japan. The 16th Cardiff Japanese lecture series today, this time with Jotaro Arimori, Associate Professor, Teaching Stream at the University of Toronto. Jotaro Sensei will give us the lecture titled Male Speech, Female Speech, Rethinking Gendered Expressions in Japanese. While the talk, you can give us your questions regarding the lecture using the Q&A function. Please type the question in the Q&A function box. And then after the lecture finishes, we will review these questions and you can upvote other audience question so that we can prioritize the question. And please do not type your question in the chat box. And also in the webinar, all your microphones will be muted and this webinar is being recorded, as I told you. And the recorded session video will be in the Cardiff Japanese online lecture series YouTube channel. And I'll be putting a link to you in the chat box later. And I'll show the QR code to the links. I think you can see the QR code link on the holding slide on the right-hand side, so kind of big one. So if you can use that, you can go to the YouTube channel directly. And okay, so let me briefly introduce today's lecturer, Jotaro Sensei. Oh. So Jotaro Arimori is an associate professor teaching stream in the Department of East Asian Studies at the University of Toronto. He specializes in Japanese language education, focusing primarily on the intersection of gender, sexuality, and Japanese language education. He actively addresses this through workshops and lectures for Japanese language teachers. He co-founded the International Network of Gender, Sexuality, and Japanese Language Education, INGSJ, the first scholarly network of its kind. Recently, he co-authored a book for teachers Teacher Training entitled Thinking Through Cases, The Untold Realities of Japanese Language Education. ケースで考える、誰も教えてくれない日本語教育の現場、published by the Koko Shuppan in 2023. And okay, thank you so much, Jotaro Sensei, for giving us this opportunity today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So I'm so excited to learn from you today. So if you are, you can share your presentation document because I'm gonna stop. I stopped it. So when you're ready, you can start your lecture. Yeah, we can see that
slide now.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Okay. So thank you very much for that kind of introduction. I have been teaching Japanese for almost 2 decades. Throughout my career, I have encountered many instances I found questionable or even problematic concerning the treatment of gendered expressions both inside and outside of the classroom. If I'm to be honest, some of these moments include my own practices. Around 7 or 8 years ago, I finally began actively addressing issues related to gender and sexual diversity in Japanese language education. While there were several experiences that motivated me to do so, one of them dates back to my early days of teaching. One day, after class, a female student approached me with the lyrics of a Japanese song written by a female singer. The student asked me why the male first pronoun boku was used even though the singer was a woman. Internally, my response was, I don't really know. But as a teacher, I felt I was obliged to answer, or to have the answer. So I said, well, that's probably because the singer is telling a story from a viewpoint of a man, not herself. The student seemed convinced. However, they then somewhat hesitantly asked, what if I used boku? What people would think of it? And that made me pause and reflect. During high school, I was in a shooting club, and there was a senior student who was on the female team, but referred to themselves as themselves using boku. I didn't interact with them much, but I observed them speaking in a very blunt manner to their fellow members, and I thought they were somewhat intimidating and strange. This memory resurfaced when student asked me the question, so I told them, there are some females who use boku, but people may perceive you as unusual. The student simply said okay and left the classroom. At that time, I was simply relying on textbook explanations regarding gendered expressions such as first-person pronouns. I would instruct my students by saying, this expression is used by women and that one by men. Though I was aware that there wasn't always the case, I believe that teaching the normative usage was a standard practice in Japanese language education. Sometime later, another student came to my office and we were just chatting casually. I don't remember what we were talking about, but the student said something a little surprising, and I exclaimed, Ara. Then the student started laughing and said, one of her Japanese teachers had said, that's something women would say, not men. So when I heard that, I was slightly offended and thought, who is the teacher to dictate how one should speak based on gender? However, I soon realized that that's precisely what I've been doing to my students. And I realized I might have discouraged quite a few of them by doing so. Languages are used to express and negotiate identity, and one's gender identity can also be constructed through language. However, training curricula for Japanese language teachers rarely address this issue. Therefore, I had been conducting workshops aimed at learning about gender and sexual diversity for Japanese teachers so that we can create a more inclusive learning environment for students of all genders and sexualities. In this talk, I will focus on gendered expressions in Japanese and discuss linguistics ideologies, which have a significant impact how the Japanese language is taught. I will also introduce analyses of naturally occurring conversations, which have shown that gendered expressions are not strictly tied to speaker's gender. Through this discussion, I aim to provide insights into how gendered expressions can be addressed in Japanese language learning and teaching. In Japanese, it is said that there is noticeable gender differences, especially in spoken language. Expressions aligned with women are known as joseigo, or women's language, embodying traits typically associated with femininity, elegance, politeness, and modesty. In contrast, these linked to men are termed danseigo, or men's language, typically associated with traits such as masculinity, assertiveness, and crudeness. Bodine, 1975, proposed categorizing gender expressions from a typological perspective into sex-exclusive differentiation, where where they are used exclusively for one gender, and sex preferential differentiation, where they are used more frequently by one gender. In the field of Japanese linguistics, use of certain personal pronouns, sentence endings, honorifics with prefix, and interjections have been considered examples of sex-exclusive differentiation. This table showed some key gendered expressions of Japanese that are considered exclusive to either women or men. However, analysis of naturally occurring conversations have shown that even those gendered expressions are not strictly tied to speaker's gender. Instead, they are used to convey and negotiate one's gender identity within a particular context. Next, I'd like to delve a little deeper into first-person pronouns and sentence final expressions. In Japanese, there's a diverse range of personal pronouns for first, second, and third-person references. Among these, first-person pronouns boast the widest variety. In formal setting, watashi serves as the go-to neutral option. However, in casual context, watashi and atashi are generally considered to be for women, while boku and ore are exclusively for men. Recently, uchi, originally from the Kansai or Osaka regions, has gained popularity nationwide, particularly among young females. Alongside regional and generational preferences add further variety. While it has been noted in the field of Japanese linguistics that over time, the differences between male and female spoken language have decreased, it is still generally believed that there are clear differences in first-person pronouns based on the speaker's gender. Here, let's take a look at examples of how first-person pronouns are defined in a Japanese dictionary. As indicated in red, it is also specified in dictionary definitions that these are used by one gender or the other. Interestingly, as noted in blue, there are times when some of these pronouns were used regardless of gender or by speakers of opposite gender, contrary to today's usage. In other words, even the usage of first-person pronouns, which is generally thought to be fixed in terms of gender, has changed over time. Furthermore, analyses of naturally occurring conversation have shown that even in current usage, gender-related expressions are not strictly tied to speaker's gender. Instead, they are used to convey and negotiate one's gender identity within a specific context. This figure depicts self-referential terms observed in study conducted by Miyazaki, 2016. The 3-year study was conducted on the use of first-person pronouns in junior high school in outskirts of Tokyo. The pronouns in the center circle are most commonly used terms, including uchi, atashi, boku, and ore. The ones in the middle circle are less common, but non-pronouns such as atai, ashi, washi, wai, etc. The outer circle contains non-pronoun self-referential examples such as a first name, full name, or even English word me. The following points were indicated in this study about the usage of first-person pronouns by female students. Many famous female students interpreted a common female first-person pronoun, atashi, as excessively formal and feminine, and preferred to use uchi, which was previously less utilized as a more neutral and casual first-person pronoun. Some girls perceived boku, typically considered masculine, as a neutral pronoun for girls to use. Some girls used ore, which indicates stronger masculinity, as first-person pronoun to express strength or coolness. Miyazaki's study does not provide overall trends regarding use and interpretation of gendered first-person pronoun in Japanese. However, Miyazaki noted that in another survey targeting students from public junior high school in metropolitan Tokyo area, out of 1,400 female junior high school students, 5% used male first-person pronouns, ore and boku. And it was also noted nearly 70% used uchi and less than 10% used atashi. Additionally, in a study by Takahashi, 2009, targeting junior high school and high school students in Okinawa, it was reported that in conversation with classmates, 4.7% of female junior high school students used ore and 1% used boku, while 2.4% of female high school students used ore and 0.2% used boku. As for male students using feminine first-person pronouns, Miyazaki only mentions there was one male student who used female atashi. While Miyazaki and Takahashi's studies don't directly address the student's gender identity, I think it's fair to say that gendered first-person pronouns in Japanese aren't strictly confined to specific gender despite general beliefs. So now, as a Japanese language teacher, I would like to discuss how first-person pronoun can be taught in a Japanese classroom. The first-person pronouns introduced in Japanese textbook don't offer much variety. In your textbook Genki, for example, you will find three: watashi, boku, and watakushi. Among these, boku is explained as being used by men, while watakushi is described as a formal counterpart of watashi. However, with this amount of information, it's not sufficient for learners to choose pronouns that align with their identities. So when I introduce boku as a new vocabulary in lesson 5 or watakushi in lesson 13, I use a chart like this to present several variations of first-person pronouns in regards to formality and gender. I also ask students about pronouns they know and discuss the imagery associated with the usage of those usages while adding those to this chart. Additionally, we also explore gender-neutral options. When we discuss gender-neutral pronouns at the workshop for Japanese teachers, jibun, the word jibun often suggested as a gender-neutral first-person pronoun that can be used in casual setting. However, some people feel it's unnatural to use jibun that way. And one thing to consider here is that in a society with a binary gender system, there may not be gender-neutral options available as a first-person pronoun. Therefore, one possible approach to expressing oneself is to slightly shift the original meaning of words to suit one's own identity. For example, terms like partner, partner, or aikata, buddy, are used to refer to spouse or romantic partners without explicitly mentioning their gender. While this usage wasn't originally intended, it has become quite established over time. And I believe the same thing can be said for the variations of first-person pronouns. While this alone does not necessarily make it easy for students to use first-person pronouns as they desire, I believe it does help demonstrate the variety of first-person pronouns available and convey that they aren't strictly determined by the speaker's gender, but can instead be utilized to better express one's identity. And another place where gender difference become prominent is sentence endings. One such ending particle is placed at the end of a sentence and serves to express the speaker's emotions or attitude. Let's compare these sentences. The first one, たけしは学生だよ, is a gender-neutral statement ending with だよ. While it is grammatically correct to write たけしは学生だ, it sounds unnatural when spoken. The da after a noun or a na adjective indicates the speaker's assertion, and it can be either dropped or retained by adding yo in spoken language. The second sentence, たけしは学生だぞ, is more masculine, using zo to amplify the assertion conveyed by da. In contrast, the third sentence is more feminine, with da being omitted and yo added to convey softer assertion. たけしは学生よ. Oops, sorry. There are a variety, sorry. There are a variety of sentence endings that can either weaken or strengthen statements, contributing to the creation of feminine and masculine expressions. This table contrasts key sentence endings. It is considered important in determining whether to use masculine, feminine, or neutral forms in sentence endings, depending on the level of assertiveness conveyed by the sentence endings. According to Maguro and Hanaoka, 1993, many sentence endings particles used by women have low assertiveness, attributed to the lower social positions of women compared to men. Thus, it is said that women cannot use expressions that strongly assert themselves towards others. Conversely, there seems to be a tendency for men to use expressions with high assertiveness. In recent years, with the changing social roles and status of women, it has been noted that difference between women's and men's spoken language have decreased. In many cases, it is believed that women's spoken language is shifting towards more neutral one, which is more assertive than feminine expressions. That being said, it is evident that even in male communications, there is a need to adjust the strength of assertion based on differences in relationships and social status with others. In Takahashi's study, 2004, attention was drawn to this communicative necessity, in Takahashi's study, attention was drawn to this communicative necessity, prompting an analysis of male utterances in workplace. While Takahashi's investigation encompassed more than just sentence endings, including interjections, word choices, and use of honorific language, where gender differences become evident, I will introduce few usages of sentence endings as examples here. Please note that the English translations are done by me, and given the limited context provided, my interpretations could be inaccurate. The first one, use of yo. The situation is two male construction company employees are chatting. A is 38 years old and B is 52. B is A's boss. 怖いから同情してくれっちゅう。誰が怖いのよ。Next one, use of ね。Two male teachers are having a meeting. A is 51 years old and B is 53. 教頭に行ったら、今度教務の方から、はい、もらってくださいって言われたのね。The third one, use of no. Male engineers are chatting. A is 20 years old and B is 30 years old. 僕はフランス語。フランス語なんですか？あ、そうなの。So the usage of yo, ne, and no at the end of sentences are typically considered as feminine sentence endings. Takahashi, considering the other instances as well, analyzes that it's not necessarily that men are consciously using female sentence endings, but rather communicative inclination to soften the tone of speech or convey a sense of intimacy might lead them to choose these expressions. Thus, Takahashi's study not only demonstrates that gendered expressions are not always fixed to one gender, but also suggests that they can be employed as communicative tools for constructing social relationships regardless of speaker's gender. Let's now turn to how Japanese pedagogical materials address gendered expressions regarding sentence endings. In a grammar reference book for Japanese language teachers, it is stated that it is especially unnatural for men to use female-only form, so we need to call learners' attention to it. Similarly, a textbook aimed at upper intermediate Japanese learners explains gendered speech as when a woman say "俺も腹減った" or "I'm hungry too," or a man says "yayo," no way, it can be surprising. Please be aware that even if the difference in speech become minimal, there are expressions that are better left unused. Thus, pedagogical materials often assert that non-standard use of gendered expression should be avoided. However, as we have observed, Japanese speakers in real-life conversation utilize gendered expressions, including non-standard ones, to negotiate, express their identities, and construct social relations. Therefore, imposing a specific speech style on learners of Japanese based on their gender is clearly problematic, especially when the diverse gender identities that have been widely recognized in today's society. Attitudes suggesting that there is an appropriate way of speaking depending on gender, however, may be common among many Japanese language teachers, including my past self. Next, I would like to reflect on this point. Through people's manner of speaking, we make judgments and assessments about who they are. This is largely because we perceive a strong link between language and identity. Nakamura, 2007, explains two perspectives regarding an interplay between language and identity: essentialism and constructivism. Essentialism proposes that entities possess inherent attributes that do not change. Viewed through an essentialist lens, gendered expressions imply that individuals engage in linguistic acts based on their gender. Women use language associated with femininity because they are women, and men use language associated with masculinity because they are men. On the other hand, constructivism suggests that attributes of entities are socially constructed and can change. From this viewpoint, it is argued that individuals shape their identities through linguistic acts. The research findings on gendered expressions we've seen so far support the constructivist perspective. Regardless of language, I believe it's evident that by adopting different ways of speaking depending on the interlocutor or the situation, individuals are constructing the versions of themselves they want to express in that moment. For instance, a same individual naturally adjusts their way of speaking when they are talking to their children as a parent compared to when dealing with clients in a professional setting, crafting an identity they feel fits the situation. However, when it comes to gendered expression, it seems we tend to take gender binarism for granted and lean towards an essentialist point of view. From a constructivist perspective, Nakamura, 2007, introduced the concept of gengo shigen, or language resources, which I believe can effectively utilized when addressing gendered expressions in Japanese language learning and teaching. Gengo shigen, or language resources, contains various speech styles from which an individual selects a specific way to communicate based on the identity they wish to convey in a particular situation. As previously mentioned, in everyday interactions, the same individual speaks differently depending on situations, their social roles, relationship to the listener, and so on. Nakamura extends this notion of language resources to gendered expression and views women's language and men's language as component of Gengo Shigen, to which everyone, regardless of gender, has equal access. While essentialist perspective of language suggests that men and women speak differently due to their sex or gender, this constructivist concept allows us to disassociate language from gender and utilize these resources to express our diverse identities. By introducing concept of Gengo Shigen into the classroom, we can create a space for learners to explore, negotiate, and establish their diverse identities in Japanese. If you are studying Japanese and wish to apply the concept of Gengo Shigen in your learning journey, it is important to understand the linguistics ideology shared in Japanese society regarding what sounds more feminine and masculine, or polite and crude, in order to be able to express who you are through the way you speak. Thanks to the internet era, we can easily access real-life conversation by speakers of target language through YouTube and other means. As mentioned, gender differences in Japanese are prominent in first-person pronouns, sentence endings, and word choices. If you're at a lower level, maybe you can start by observing how first-person pronouns are used and then progress to examining sentence endings and word choices as the proficiency level advances. Additionally, you can enrich your Gengo Shigen by changing the focus to differences by factors such as ages, social roles, and regional backgrounds in addition to gender variety. If you are teaching Japanese, you can present gendered expressions as possible choices for students, rather than telling them that certain expressions are used by one gender. Some teachers may be concerned that their student might face situations where their non-normative usage of gendered expression could provoke negative reactions. I understand that concern because I don't want my students to be in that situation either. However, unlike pointing at grammatical or lexical mistakes, it is not easy for us to discern the kind of identity students are actually trying to construct through their way of speaking. I believe it will be great if we teach Japanese in a way that allows learners to explore and express their true selves rather than conforming to social norms of femininity or masculinity. That's all I have prepared for today's webinar. I hope it I hope it provided useful information for you to learn Japanese and teach Japanese. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jotaro Sensei. That was fascinating lecture. We are going to move on to the Q&A session. And then at the moment, we haven't got any questions from the audience, but I'm sure we're gonna have a bit after a little bit in a while. My colleague Christopher Hood Sensei, there was a question from Emi Sakamoto. Can I start reading this question from Emi Sakamoto? Is that okay, everybody? Yeah, okay. So based on your findings, do you have any idea when would be a good timing to introduce a wide range of gender use in class as part of language resources?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. What I do is at the first lecture, I provide an overview of Japanese language to the class for a first year Japanese course. And then I mention gender difference and also uh, it's a tendency, but not strictly tied to gender. Uh, that's what I do on the day one. And and the next possible point is when first person pronoun boku is introduced in lesson 5. And that's still earlier stage of learning, but it's a good opportunity to provide and make students be aware of there's a variety in terms of expressing themselves through using first person pronouns.
Thank you very much, Otaro Sensei. We've got sorry, my dog's barking. I'm so sorry. We've got the another question from anonymous attendee. I'm going to read it, this one. When it comes to gender identity, what is the best pronoun in Japanese that is the closest equivalent to the English they?
So by this question, so they mean a like third person pronoun or like second person pronoun?
This question,
Oh,
the person who questioned this, is that possible to type in first person pronoun?
first person pronoun. So it's actually a tough question, and there's no right answer. As I talked as I mentioned during my talk, but jibun is a possible alternative, I think. But some people don't like to use jibun because it could be associated in way you describe yourself in a sort of like military kind of situation. So, but at the same time, some studies showed that jibun, people to use jibun as a gender neutral option. And when I talk about the usage of jibun in my class, I also mentioned that there are people who do not agree using jibun as a first-person pronoun, but there are people also use a jibun as a first-person pronoun. So, and um, I also ask students what kind of pronouns that you can think of, and students know a lot of varieties like warawa or ware or washi, probably from watching anime and stuff, and we discuss it. And uh, as a native speaker of Japanese, I can talk about like what kind of impression you may give by using those first person pronouns. But I usually avoid telling students, oh, you can use jibun, because that may not be identity they want to express through using that first person pronoun.
Thank you very much, Jotaro sensei. And we've got more question. And then a previous question I said, thank you very much with the smiling mark here. And then another one, what pronouns do you use in Japanese when referring to yourself informally?
これはですね、it's a very good question, and I thought about it, and I like in general I use watashi and boku and ore and jibun. I use four different personal pronouns, and even when I'm speaking casually in front of my students, I use watashi in classroom. And sometimes I use boku, and the students are like students said, "Why did you just say boku?" And I said, "Yeah." And that's how I speak when I'm talking to my friends. But I also use ore, and I also use jibun, depends on context. And I don't really have a logical reason to it, but probably there's by moment, there's a identity I want to express differently. So that's how I um, explain about the usage of my own personal pronouns.
Okay, thank you very much. And we have another question from Michael Hanford. Do you think there is a difference between term final particles, for example, no, that form part of relatively fixed expression, like そんなの versus term final particle that are relatively more free, for example, 明日も仕事をするの in terms of gendered usage? I'm wondering whether the former might be less gendered in usage and expectation, whereas the latter tends to follow gender norms more typically.
うん、そうなの。明日も仕事するの。
Mm.
うーん。It's not just about usage of no, but intonation also plays an important role. So if you say, 明日も仕事するの sounds like feminine, but if you say 明日も仕事するの, then it becomes like more neutral. So I think it's not just about the ending particle to use, but it also the intonation plays an important role. And I am not 100% sure which is more like gendered or which is more neutral.
Okay, thank you very much. And another one. What is the difference between ore and boku? Is one more informal than the other?
Ore sounds more masculine and crude, and the boku is more less casual. And for example, in workplace, I was working for a company as a salaryman or a salaried worker before I became a Japanese teacher, and I was using boku uh, within the company, to my boss or to my senior colleagues, but never in front of my clients. So like to clients, I was using watashi, which is considered a more formal expression. And ore is really casual. So I use ore when I'm speaking to my friends only. I never use ore in work environment.
Okay. Oh, Honse. Yes. And my colleague Christopher Food, he's got question as well. Chris, could you ask Jotaro Sensei with your question, please?
Sure. Thank you very much for the talk, Sensei. I've got two questions. The first one, sort of summarizing points you sort of put in your talk, is that although there are gendered pronouns, there are situations now where it's less gendered than in the past. Which leads me to the question, for those people who deliberately want to use a gendered pronoun and have changed a gendered pronoun as a way of tying with their identity. I'm thinking here of LGBTQ situations where someone changes gender or whatever. How can they now change the pronoun to make it clear to other people that their identity has changed in some way? And then the second question, sort of building partly on an answer you gave already, but also in relation to a talk we had previously in this series by Dogen, it's not just about pronouns, it's about intonation and pitch. And I'd like to hear your views on how staff, given that the overwhelming majority of language teachers are female, can help male students or those identifying as male use the right pronouns and use the right pitch and intonation as well.
Okay, thank you for the question. For the first one, so as I talked about my first person pronoun, probably most of people do not stick to one person pronoun. And for gender minority people may not choose to express themselves they may choose not to express themselves as a gender minority in a certain situation. For example, in business situations, that could negatively affect in constructing a relationship with a client. However, when they are speaking to their friends, maybe they want to amplify or express that side of their identity. So, and people still can tell because although the identity can be constructed and expressed through the usage of a certain speech style, but that's not the only way. And it could be a part of constructing gender. So I think it wouldn't create a misrepresentation of gender identity. But there was a case, one of my former students came to my office and he is a cisgender and he had a Japanese girlfriend and he picked up a lot of sentence ending expressions, which considered to be female expressions. And his way of speaking had changed a lot since he took my course. So, and after the conversation, I asked, we talked about how he spoke, and then I pointed out that is considered very feminine, and if that's how he wants to express himself, and he said no, and he was really appreciative of pointing that out. So, but that's something I could do because we established a relationship AF which allowed us to speak frankly. But if it's in a classroom situation where other students around, if you do that, that creates a maybe like awkward moment because it's revealing one's gender or expressing one's gender is a sensitive issue. So we have to be careful about it when we do that. And did I answer your first question? Okay, and then next question about intonation and pitch. And it is true that there are the industry of Japanese language teaching is there are most of the majority of teachers are female, and in my department there are 4 Japanese instructors, and I am the only male instructor. And it is true that the teacher's voice is one of the rare real utterance the students are exposed, especially in foreign language learning environment. But at the same time, we have a lot of resources like video and other audio materials. So for listening practice, I make it sure that I balance male and female speech, that a portion of male and female speech. And also, I try to, when I show my students videos in class, I also make sure that it has a variety of speech, it has a variety of speech style.
Okay, thank you very much, Jotaro Sensei. We've got the question from Caroline back, but Caroline, can you type the can you type the comment to the Q&A box? Is that okay? That would be very good. And while you're typing your comment, we are going to move on to the question from Mia Pierce. And I'm going to read this. And you addressed the teaching of gendered personal pronouns in Japanese classes attended by foreign students, but can you maybe provide some insight into what pronouns or how these pronouns are taught, introduced into Japanese students in Japan? I.e., how are non-gender conforming stud students in Japan taught to refer to themselves, if at all?
Yeah, actually, I don't have the experience of teaching Japanese in Japan, but I have a lot of colleagues who work in Japan, and we've discussed this topic. And actually, in one of the chapters that we published recently, discussed this issue. So I think like same method can be applied using the chart and think about what kind of image or connotation that each person pronoun carries. But also, since they are in Japan surrounded by actual speakers of Japanese, maybe what we can do in classroom is to provide a introductory opportunity to be exposed to a variety of person pronouns, but maybe we can assign students to go out the classroom and what kind of first person pronouns you've heard, and then what kind of person are actually using the first person pronouns, and make a students report that in the classroom. So I think that's how, and it's not teacher telling students, oh, this person speak this way or that person speak that way, but rather students discover what kind of, how actually people use a first person pronoun that way.
Thank you very much. Yes, so I have one question, Jotaro Sensei. Is that okay to ask you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I, as a teacher teaching Japanese, I just feel like there are no Japanese language textbook that use appropriate gender expressions. I'm just wondering, are there any language textbook in other countries that address these kind of issue? Do you know?
Oh, other language?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know because like there are a lot of languages like English or Chinese or even Korean. They don't really differentiate male and female speech by using certain lexical items. So, but there are maybe other languages, but I don't really know.
Okay. I've got other questions. Is okay, sorry. And so so I always try to talk with the students about the lack of Japanese language textbook with appropriate gender expressions, etc. And then you said teachers, as a Japanese teacher, it's good to discuss about this with the student. But is there kind of anything we should be aware of when doing so? I mean, when we discuss about gender expressions or pronouns in Japanese with a student who want to learn Japanese, do you think is there anything we should be aware?
I think that we have to be aware of or be careful about is avoid telling like this is an expression used by men or women. So even after discussion, teacher may feel that they are in the position to tell like what is the right answer. And I question the purpose of discussion if teacher conclude the discussion that way. Because uh, among native speakers of Japanese, maybe we have different views about the usage of gendered expressions. And there's also regional differences. And when I was talking with other Japanese teacher, she said that it's common to call their older brother aniki in casual conversation, but never in my region. We never say aniki. Like I haven't heard people actually using the word aniki, but for that teacher, it is like regular practice. So whoops, sorry, I spilled water. Sorry. I myself have I myself may have a very biased understanding of Japanese, the Japanese usage. So I would like to avoid saying, "Oh, this is the way," in a way that giving the I have the right answer.
Mm. Yeah, thank you very much. Very, very difficult, isn't it, really?
It
But
is.
teachers need to be very flexible and very considerable as well. Yeah, thank you very much for the advice. And so I've got a message from Caroline Beck, and I have a comment to the use of boku and also the use of one's name to refer to oneself. And I have also noticed that the use of boku in songs and speech of female idols, entertainers. So I'm happy that this got addressed. I still feel that there is more room for research, however, because there only seems to be a small minority of girls perceiving boku as a neutral. It would be interesting to know whether they are aware of their non-normative stance, for example. Do you have any comments on this, Jotaro sensei?
The use of boku by female is often observed among younger females, like junior high school or high school students, or even elementary school students. And Nakamura and other researchers analyze the usage because other female pronouns. So at the early stage, at the early age, a lot of people refer themselves as with their first name. But when you enter a school, you are told not to use your first name, to describe yourself, like when you write, when you compose something. Instead, boys use boku, like women use, girls use watashi or atashi. But there's a huge gap between using first name and using atashi or watashi, which often considered as pronoun for adult female. And so to fill the gap, some younger girls use boku, which they consider it's less feminine, but still usable to express their identities. That's what is being discussed about the usage of boku by younger females.
Okay, thank you very much, Jotaro Sensei. It's 1 o'clock already, so we've got lots of questions for you, but we need to go. And let me share the screen again. So yes, so thank you very much, Jotaro Sensei, for all your lectures and answers for the questions. And then so we need to say goodbye to Jotaro Sensei, and then we are going to, sorry, I'm going to show this. Can you see this slide? And then this is a QR code that I was talking about, and then you can go to the YouTube channel with this QR code that Chris made. And so please visit this YouTube channel. And also, next Cardiff-Japanese webinar will be in May time on June time. We haven't decided. We haven't decided yet, but it's going to be Dogen-san the YouTuber again. So please look forward to it. And we would be very grateful if you could complete the short survey to tell us how you found this lecture with Jotaro Sensei. And the survey will be automatically sent to you later. So thank you so much, Jotaro Sensei.
Thank you very much.
あり
It
が
was
と
a
うござい
great
ました。
experience for me too.
Thank you. So hopefully I can see you soon in person. But yes, so take care. And I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. So thank you very much for coming, everybody. So I'll see you in June, May or June. So I'll let you know. Thank you so much. ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございまし
ありがとうございました。
た。
Thank you.
さよなら。
Bye.